You think ducks are living the dream? Waddling around, chilling on ponds, quacking all day? Yeah, no. Being a duck is actually one of the worst gigs in the animal kingdom. And today you'll find out why. The familiar image of a duck serene upon the water's surface often evokes a sense of pastoral calm, a symbol of nature's gentle rhythms. We picture them gliding effortlessly, their young trailing dutifully behind, a charming tableau of idyllic wildlife. This perception, however, is a carefully constructed facade, a comforting illusion that masks a far harsher, more demanding existence. The life of a duck, from its very first breath to its often untimely end, is a relentless struggle for survival, fraught with perils that would test the mettle of any creature. Today we shall peel back this veneer of tranquility. We will venture beyond the picturesque pond and delve into the often overlooked and frankly quite brutal realities that define the duck's world. It is a world where danger lurks in every shadow, where even the most fundamental aspects of life, such as finding a mate or raising young, are fraught with intense, often violent challenges. Prepare yourselves, for the truth about duck life is far from the storybook image. It is a saga of constant vigilance, heartbreaking loss, and an unyielding, desperate fight against overwhelming odds. The very beginning of a duck's life is, tragically, an immediate immersion into a world that views it as little more than a readily available meal. From the moment a tiny, vulnerable duckling chips its way out of the fragile sanctuary of its egg, the odds are monumentally stacked against it. It emerges not into a welcoming world, but into an arena teeming with predators, each with an insatiable appetite for tender young waterfowl. Consider the sheer array of dangers. Lurking beneath the seemingly placid surface of the pond are predatory fish, such as pike or largemouth bass, whose cavernous mouths can engulf an unsuspecting duckling in a horrifying instant. Along the water's edge, snakes slither through the reeds, their senses keenly attuned to the slightest movement, ready to strike with lethal precision. Even the slow-moving turtle, often perceived as harmless, can become a formidable predator, dragging a struggling duckling to a watery grave. Above, the skies are patrolled by keen-eyed birds of prey, hawks, eagles, even larger gulls and herons, all of whom regard a brood of ducklings as an easy and nutritious feast. The mother duck, despite her valiant efforts and fierce protective instincts, can only do so much against such a diverse and relentless onslaught of adversaries. She may try to shield her young, to lead them to safety, but the sheer number of threats often proves overwhelming. Each rustle in the undergrowth, each shadow passing overhead, signals a potential life or death encounter for her vulnerable offspring. The statistics paint a grim picture, a stark testament to this brutal reality. It is estimated that only a mere 30 to 40% of ducklings survive their first week of life. Imagine that, for every 10 ducklings that hatch, filled with the instinct to live and explore, 6 or 7 will perish in a terrifyingly short span of time. Now let us turn our attention to what one might hope would be a more tender aspect of duck existence, the pursuit of love and the continuation of their lineage. Alas, even here in the realm of romance and reproduction, the world of ducks is far from gentle. In fact, the mating rituals and social dynamics among many duck species are characterized by a level of aggression and coercion that can only be described as deeply unsettling, a tragic ballet of desire and desperation. Male ducks, or drakes as they are known, particularly in species like mallards, are often driven by an overwhelming reproductive imperative that frequently manifests as relentless and forceful pursuit of females. It is not uncommon to witness multiple drakes aggressively pursuing a single female, a chaotic and often violent spectacle. This isn't courtship in any romantic sense. It is frequently a brutal contest where the female's choice or consent seems to be a secondary concern, if a concern at all. The intensity of these encounters can be shocking. Females are often chased, harassed, and subjected to repeated, aggressive mating attempts by groups of males. This behavior, known scientifically as forced extra-pair copulation, is a stark reality in the duck world. The drakes, resplendent in their breeding plumage, can become relentless aggressors, their drive to pass on their genes overriding any semblance of gentle persuasion. The idyllic image of a pair of ducks gliding peacefully together often hides this darker, more coercive side of their reproductive lives. So extreme is this pressure from males that female ducks in some species have evolved extraordinary physiological adaptations to regain some measure of control. Beyond the ever-present threat of predators and the brutal realities of their reproductive lives, ducks face another relentless adversary, the weather itself. These are creatures intimately tied to the whims of nature, and when nature unleashes its fury, ducks are often directly in the path of destruction, with little recourse or sophisticated shelter to protect them or their precious offspring. Their nesting strategies, born of necessity and simplicity, leave them tragically exposed. Ducks, for the most part, are not master architects when it comes to nest construction. Unlike some birds that weave intricate sheltered homes, a typical duck nest is a rather rudimentary affair. It often consists of a shallow depression in the ground, perhaps scraped out by the female, lined with grasses, reeds, and down feathers plucked from her own breast. While this provides some camouflage and insulation, it offers scant protection against severe weather events. Consider the impact of a heavy downpour. A torrential rainstorm can quickly saturate a poorly drained nest, chilling the eggs and potentially drowning newly hatched ducklings. The mother duck can only do so much to shield her clutch with her own body. If the rain is persistent and cold, the chances of egg survival plummet. And it's not just rain. Sudden cold snaps, unseasonal snow, or hailstorms can be equally devastating to an exposed nest and its delicate contents. Chapter 4. Ducks are smart, which makes it worse. One might be tempted to think that a simpler mind would be a blessing in such a harsh world, that a degree of blissful ignorance might cushion the blows of a life fraught with peril. However, here lies perhaps one of the cruelest ironies of duck existence. Ducks are, in fact, surprisingly intelligent creatures. This cognitive capacity, far from being a comfort, likely amplifies their awareness of the constant struggles and dangers they face, making their difficult lives perhaps even more profoundly felt. Scientific studies and anecdotal observations have revealed that ducks possess a notable level of intelligence. They are capable of learning and remembering, particularly when it comes to identifying individuals, both fellow ducks and humans. They can recognize faces, distinguishing between those who might offer a handout and those who pose a threat. This ability to learn and adapt is crucial for survival, but it also implies a capacity for experiencing more complex emotional states. Furthermore, ducks exhibit distinct social bonds. They form connections with other ducks, recognize their own offspring, and engage in social interactions that suggest a level of awareness beyond simple instinct. Some species form long-term pair bonds, and the distress shown by a duck that has lost its mate or its young is palpable. This social complexity hints at a richer inner life than we often credit them with, a life where loss and fear are not just fleeting reactions but potentially more deeply processed experiences. Chapter 5. Humans made it worse. If the natural world presents a formidable array of challenges for ducks, one might hope that the presence of humans, often self-proclaimed stewards of the planet, would offer some respite or even assistance. Tragically, the opposite is often true. Human activity in its myriad forms has frequently exacerbated the hardships faced by ducks, adding new layers of danger and degradation to their already precarious lives. We have in many ways taken a tough situation and made it demonstrably worse. Consider the direct exploitation. Ducks are farmed on an industrial scale for their meat and eggs, often in conditions that prioritize profit over welfare. The practice of producing foie gras, for instance, involves force-feeding ducks and geese to enlarge their livers, a process widely condemned for its cruelty. While not all duck farming involves such extremes, the intensive systems can still lead to overcrowding, stress, and the denial of natural behaviors essential for duck well-being, such as access to open water for swimming and preening. Beyond farming, ducks are a popular target for hunters. While regulated hunting can be argued as a form of wildlife management, it undeniably adds another source of mortality and stress to duck populations. The experience of being shot at, of seeing flockmates fall, of carrying lead shot in their bodies. These are direct human-inflicted traumas. The fear instilled by the sound of gunshots or the sight of hunters can disrupt feeding patterns and force ducks from vital habitats. Then there's the seemingly benign, yet often harmful interaction of feeding ducks in urban parks. Chapter 6. The Worst Way to Die. For a creature whose life is a constant tightrope walk above a chasm of dangers, the end, when it comes, is rarely peaceful or dignified. Sickness and predation are the two great specters that haunt a duck's final days or moments, and neither offers a gentle exit. When a duck's strength begins to wane, or its vigilance falters, the unforgiving realities of its world close in with swift and often brutal finality. Consider illness. In the wild, there are no veterinarians rushing to a sick duck's aid, no antibiotics or supportive care. When a duck falls ill, whether from disease, infection, or the cumulative effects of malnutrition and stress, it typically faces a slow, solitary decline. It may become too weak to forage effectively, too lethargic to keep up with the flock, or too feeble to escape the notice of ever-watchful predators. There is rarely a helping hand, or wing, offered. As its condition deteriorates, the sick duck will often isolate itself, perhaps seeking a hidden spot in the reeds or under a bush. Here, it will simply fade away, its body succumbing to the ailment that has taken hold. This slow attrition is a common, unglamorous end for many wild creatures, and ducks are no exception. So yeah, being a duck might look cute, but it's a daily battle just to stay alive. The charming waddle, the cheerful quack, the serene glide across a sun-dappled pond. These are the images that readily spring to mind. Yet as we have seen, this idyllic picture is but a thin veneer over a life of relentless challenge and profound hardship. From the moment they hatch as vulnerable, bite-sized morsels, to their often violent and stressful reproductive lives, their battles against the elements, and the constant gnawing threat of predation, the existence of a duck is an unceasing struggle for survival, often amplified by an intelligence that makes them acutely aware of their perilous world. We, as humans, have often compounded these difficulties through direct exploitation, habitat destruction, and even well-intentioned but misguided actions. The life of a duck is a testament to resilience, certainly, but it is also a stark reminder that nature, for all its beauty, can be an incredibly unforgiving realm, and our perceptions can be far removed from the brutal realities faced by its inhabitants. The dream of being a duck is, in truth, more akin to a recurring nightmare from which there is little escape. Subscribe to The Wild Sucks for more brutally honest nature facts. Next up, comment below to let us know which animal's charmed life you want us to expose next.